Alright, so this is Land of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse for the Sega Game Gear. This game originally came out for the Sega Master System in 1992, developed by Aspect and published by Sega. And the following year, 1993, it was released for the Sega Game Gear. Like most of the Mickey Mouse Disney games on the Sega systems, this is a platform game with a little bit of puzzles, so if you've played Legend of Illusion, you'll definitely be familiar with this one. So as you can see here, you start off on a map where you get to pick the levels that you're going to go to. And starting off, my first impression with this game, which actually is now, this is my first time playing the game. Like I said, I just picked it up. So I'm kind of learning as we go here. And my first impression was it looks very much like Castle of Illusion. As you play it more, you do realize there's probably more puzzles in it, similar to Legends of Illusion. And man, it really gets confusing with the Mickey Mouse games on the Sega systems. There's essentially four games in the Illusion series. There's Castle of Illusion, Land of Illusion, World of Illusion, and Legends of Illusion. So yeah, it gets a little bit confusing there. I actually thought I already had this game. I thought I even shown this game before, and like I said, I just picked it up and then realized, oh, I don't actually have this one at all. So that's pretty cool. Graphics, as you can see, are amazing. I'm always blown away when I play a good game on the Game Gear and think about really what that system was doing for its time. This is a system that came out in 1990, and its main competitor, the Game Boy, didn't have anything even remotely close until the Game Boy Color, which came out in 1998. That's 8 years later. Really a good-looking game for a handheld at the time. In fact, it's a good game, period, for its time. The fact it's on a handheld, to me, is only more impressive. Really good-looking game here. Unfortunately, well, the Game Gear had really good graphics for its time. Like the Sega Master System, it also shared its sound hardware, and the music on the Game Gear always leaves something to be desired. I mean, it's okay considering it's on the Game Gear, but you can't expect the greatest music from the Game Gear. The controls are very similar to Castle of Illusion. Of course, on the Game Gear you only have two buttons, so you have a jump button, and you have basically your pickup/throw button. Once again, very similar to most of the Illusion games, if not all of them, if I remember correctly. You can't jump directly on enemies. If you jump directly on an enemy, you will get hurt. Just like in the other ones, you have to do like a butt dive, which in here you do by pressing the jump button again. So pressing jump once, you jump, press it again in the air, and you'll do a butt dive. As you can see here, sometimes you need to do that to get to different parts of the level. Now, I don't remember anything like this in the other Illusion games, but I could be wrong because it's been a while since I played them. But some underwater levels where you have to swim, and as you can see when you go underwater at the bottom of the screen there, you have like a timer for how much breath you have, which you can replenish if you can get your head above water. Just like in Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that. Okay, so coming up here is one of the examples, maybe not the best examples, but one of the examples of, I guess, what you would call a puzzle. Like I said, this is my first time playing the game, so I'm figuring I've got to get up here. As you can see, you can't quite jump high enough, and there's nowhere else to go, so, you know, in these games, you get the blocks, and you gotta, you know, throw the block so you can jump on it to get up to a higher location, which you've already done in this game. And I figured, okay, that's what you have to do here. But then I realized you can't swim up when you're holding the block. And I'm thinking, you've got to be able to get up there. Like, there's nowhere else to go. And you have this spot here where there's obviously, you can jump up to there. Why can you jump up to there and then you can't jump any higher? I'm thinking there's got to be a way to get the blocks up. Of course, then I realized that you just kill that thing and you get a key. It really isn't that difficult, but like I said, this is my first time playing it, so you're seeing me trying to figure that one out. So I thought I'd show you that. I'll show you some better examples of the puzzles in this game, though, definitely coming up. This one killed me many times, and you got this fire below you that sort of follows the way you walk. Like if you stop walking, the fire stops, and then as you start to walk, the fire goes. But it gets to the point where it's ahead of you a little bit, and it kind of always stays ahead of you. And I'm thinking, okay, well, there's these blocks here. I'm thinking the blocks are for something. I actually am thinking that you're supposed to throw the block onto the fire, and that will put the fire out. That makes sense. So, I mean, I'm trying to throw the block onto the fire. It seems to be almost impossible. And eventually I realize it's just a race, you idiot. The blocks are there just to slow you down. You gotta pick up and throw the blocks as fast as you can and run past the fire. I don't know why it took me so many times to figure that out, but yeah, I died many times here. Alright, so continuing with the fire theme in this castle. Some great platforming sections here. And, you know, like I said, the controls are bang on. Really good controls. And of course, I do find it a lot easier to play Game Gear games when you're not actually looking at a Game Gear screen. And, you know, as good as the Game Gear was, I was just going on about how good it is. We all know that now with aged capacitors and, you know, in comparison to modern LCD screens, the Game Gear screen's a little hard to see, especially when stuff moves and it gets blurry. I mean, so was the original Game Boy. Stuff got blurry when it moved. That was kind of just the way it was back then. And as always, I'm playing Game Gear games on emulation. It's really the only game system that when I normally do videos for, it's on emulation instead of real hardware. And I mean, do you really want to look at the Game Gear screen? I wouldn't be able to see it. You wouldn't be able to see it. So yeah, this is emulation, of course. And yeah, like I was basically just saying, it is a little bit easier to control and to see what you're doing on the emulators with the Game Gear games. It was a little bit of slowdown back there when I was jumping over the dragon's fireball. So I don't know if that's in the real game or in the emulation. It's probably in the real game, to be honest with you. You know, the Game Gear's processor is not the fastest thing in the world, and a lot of games do have a little bit of slowdown when there's a lot of action going on at once. Here we can see essentially the first boss. Like some of the other Illusion games, the biggest complaint might be that there's not enough bosses. Like, you know, every level doesn't have a boss fight at the end of it, but very, very typical. Pick up the blocks and throw them at the dragon's head. 3 hits and the dragon is dead. Like in a lot of the other Disney Sega games and Illusion series games, when you beat a boss, you usually meet another, you know, friendly character who gives you either clues or maybe an item that you need to continue. Once again, he's giving you hints that you need to go back to a level that you've already beaten to find an alternate path and ultimately get an item that you need to progress to the next level. So once again, very similar to Legends of Illusion in that you have a lot of that kind of puzzle stuff. It's not just straightforward platforming like Super Mario Brothers or something like that, which I really like. I mean, like I said, this is a great looking game. The graphics are really good. The controls are really good. It's definitely one of the good Game Gear games. There's a lot of games on the Game Gear. There's a lot of good games on the Game Gear. I think it's unfortunate that you know it's not standing the test of time so well. I have like 6 Game Gears, and to be honest with you, they probably all have problems. Especially turning on after they've been sitting for a while and the capacitors have drained. So, I mean, ultimately I would like to get one of the Game Gears recapped, maybe LED backlit mod, and get it working well. Have one good working Game Gear, because there is a lot of good Game Gear games. It's just unfortunate that a lot of the Game Gears don't work very well anymore. Here's another good example of the platforming and needing to butt dive off these pumpkin things to get over the spikes. I think that's great. Great controls, great concept, great game. And actually, here's one of the best examples of the puzzles in this game. This is a very unique puzzle. I've never seen anything like it. The screen is constantly scrolling to the right until you stand on a switch on the floor, and then it will scroll to the left. It's one of those things where the screen automatically scrolls, and if you get stuck behind something, it'll kill you. But here you can scroll the screen back by stepping on one of the blocks, and another block will be close enough that it'll always be on the screen, and you've got to try and get over to the next block before the screen scrolls and the block's no longer on the screen. So you got to scroll all the way to the right, get a key, and then step on the blocks in order to get all the way back to the left with the key. It's actually really hard. I couldn't do it. Like I said, this is my first time playing the game, so obviously I would be able to do much better the second time. But that's not the point. The point is, this is an awesome puzzle. And like I said, I don't think I've ever seen a puzzle like this in a game before. And I think that's what you'll like about this game the most, is the platforming's good. It reminds me of DuckTales on NES, I'll say it. You know, great platforming, jumping off things to get over spikes, you know, opening up the treasure chests. It reminds me of DuckTales, which is a great Disney game. But the puzzles in here are very unique, and that's really what I think makes this game and makes Legends of Illusion some really great games. And like I said, this one's not on the Genesis. It's only on your Master System or your Game Gear. And if you have a Game Gear, this is a must-have. Definitely pick this game up. See you guys later.